Hello Year 7, welcome to lesson 10 of Coraline. Hope you're doing well in week 4 of your lockdown remote lessons. So you know the usual top tips for your remote learning and a little special message from Coraline this morning. We're all getting better, but remember to hand your work in. Go to the assignments on Teams. Look at the assignment, go to the little paper clip at the bottom, attach work, and it's either a photograph that you've taken on your phone or it's the document and wherever you've saved it. Okay, if you get stuck, look at the video that's on the English YouTube channel. Okay, well done. Let's move on. Right, quick recap then. What do we know so far? Coraline's obviously thinking about it hard there in the picture. So I want you to think about key characters. Pause the video. Don't need to write this down. Can you remember the key characters in the novel so far? Okay, what did you get? Coraline, hope you remembered her. Got her mum. Got her dad. We've got her other mum and dad, the ones with the buttons for eyes. Who else have we got? We've got her cat. Not her cat, the cat. Doesn't belong to her, it just prowls around outside. We've got Miss Spink. We've got Miss Forcible, the ladies who live in the flat downstairs. There's one other person. Can you remember who that is? The old man upstairs. Excellent. I didn't include his mouse circus. Not necessarily key characters, but I'll give you that if you put that in. Right, one other thing I want you to quickly recap. Key events. What has happened so far? Oh, can you pause the video? Can you just think what has happened in the novel so far? What are the key events? Not every single event, but what are the main events that have happened so far? So just pause the video and have a think. What can I recall? Okay, what have we got then? Coraline discovers that blocked door. Don't worry if you've got them in slightly different order or slightly different to mine, as long as roughly they're the same. So she's got that blocked door. Remember, it's in the kitchen. Her mum and dad work and don't really pay attention to her. They're a bit busy working from home. We might all be able to appreciate that at the moment. Miss Spink and Miss Forcible, Mrs. Spink and Forcible, tell her she's in danger. If you can remember how they knew that. Yep, they read it in her tea leaves. Coraline enters the other world through the door that is suddenly not blocked. She meets her other parents. Got anything else? Is there another key event after meeting her other parents? What else happened in chapter number 4? Well, they've got buttons for eyes. It's a little bit creepy. And they've got button for eyes. What else did they think, her other parents? They want her to stay there. They want to be a perfect family. But in order to be that, she needs buttons for eyes. A little bit frightening. Well done. If you could remember all of those things, you've got an excellent memory. If you didn't remember them, it doesn't matter. We've recapped them, so hopefully it's refreshed your memory. Right, let's move on. This lesson, Coraline begins her mission. So we're going to look at that and we're going to keep going back to what we started looking at the beginning of the unit, which is the elements of a fairy tale. But don't forget, it's not a simple fairy tale. Okay, so question, title, I want you to write in your book with the date, whichever the date is that you are writing on today. I want you to write that neatly in your book and underline it. How does Gaiman, the writer, use fairy tale conventions in chapter 5? And a convention just means it's the same thing in all fairy tales. If you're writing a fairy tale, this is what you do. It's like the rules of writing a fairy tale. Okay, so pause the video and write the title and today's date down in your exercise book, Year 7. Well done. Okay, so let's have a think about then fairy tale conventions. We're going to think about the hero, because Coraline is the hero of our book. And when heroes in fairy tales go on their mission, they use certain things. So we're going to think about heroes on missions. Okay, so let's forget about fairy tales for a minute. Let's think of other heroes and their missions. I'm going to bring some pictures of some heroes up who go on a mission. Okay, I'm hoping that you know them. So let's have a look. You don't need to write anything down for a minute. Let's just see if you know these heroes. Okay, so we've got 5 heroes on the screen. All of these heroes are involved in fictional stories. And they all go on a mission, and they all have something very special, very in common with Coraline and her mission and the story in the book. Okay, next year 7, I want you to draw this table in your book. We are just going to be writing keywords in the boxes. So it doesn't have to be enormous. We're not going to be writing sentences or paragraphs. Okay, and you don't need to draw the pictures. I just put them in there to make it look nice on the screen. Okay, so let's draw the table. You want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows and 4 columns. You want the column headings: story, chapter, helper, and magical item. And once you've done that, you can see at the top of the screen it says name the heroes. So can you name the heroes that I've put in those boxes? So you just put in a name in the character column first of all. Pause the video and do that now. Okay, well done. Right, so did you get them right? The answers are coming up in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Katniss Everdeen, Shrek, Dorothy Gale, Frodo Baggins and Luke Skywalker. Well done if you got all of them. That's brilliant. And now I want you to think about, can you name the stories they are from? Okay, films or books. So you're looking now in this first column here, and I want you to try and write the story name that these characters are from. So pause the video now and write down the story titles if you know them. Okay, if you need a clue, the clues are coming up on the screen in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so you need to put them in the right place if you needed a hand. Okay, the answers then are coming up in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Okay, so now every hero in a fairy tale has a helper. They have someone on their mission who helps them. So we have Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games, we have Shrek from Shrek, Dorothy Gale from The Wizard of Oz, Frodo Baggins from The Lord of the Rings, Luke Skywalker from Star Wars. Do you know the names of their helpers? If you don't want a clue, pause the video now to try and fill a name in your table. If you want a clue, there are some pictures of the helpers coming up at the bottom of the screen in 3, 2, 1. Okay, pause the video if you need to and write down the names of the helpers in the fictional missions. Okay, the answers are coming up in 3, 2, 1. Okay, now Katniss is helped by Peter. Don't worry if he spelt it differently. He helped her in the Hunger Games. We have Donkey, of course, in Shrek. Dorothy is helped by the Tin Man, the Lion and the Scarecrow. Frodo is helped by Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. And Luke Skywalker is helped by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, you may have got some different ones for the Star Wars one. You may have got something like Chewbacca or Princess Leia, or that's okay. Okay, the last column then. We're looking at magical items. What are their magical items that they are given on their missions? Pause the video if you don't want a help or a clue. If you do need a clue, they are coming up in 3, 2, 1. Okay. So try and think of the name, match them up to the right story. Whose magical items are they? Pause the video if you need to. The answers are coming up in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Katniss has her bow and arrow. Shrek is built a giant gingerbread man so he can get into the castle to see the princess. Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz has her ruby slippers. Frodo in Lord of the Rings has his gold ring. And of course, Luke Skywalker has his lightsaber. Alright, so those are what we call fairy tale conventions. There are more of them, but that's what we're going to just look at for now for Coraline. And she has exactly the same things in this story. Okay, well done, Year 7. Right, so what about Coraline then? Our hero. Who's her helper? What's her magical item? Can you think? What or who is her helper? Aha, it's the talking cat. Mine might appear at some time in a minute. Doesn't talk, just meows loudly. What's a magical item? We've read about it already. Can you remember? I nearly got this wrong when I was doing this. I thought of one thing, then I realised it wasn't that. It was another. Seems like she's almost got two. It's a stone with a hole in it. Thought it might be the key for the door, but it's not. It's the stone with a hole in it. Right then, Year 7. So what we're going to do now is we're going to read about Coraline on her mission. Let's go. Chapter 5. Coraline locked the door of the drawing room with a cold, black key. She went back into the kitchen and climbed onto a chair. She tried to put the bunch of keys back on top of the door again. She tried 4 or 5 times before she was forced to accept that she just wasn't big enough, and she put them down on the counter next to the door. Her mother still hadn't returned from her shopping expedition. Coraline went to the freezer and took out the spare loaf of frozen bread in the bottom compartment. She made herself some toast with jam and peanut butter. She drank a glass of water. She waited for her parents to come back. When it began to get dark, Coraline microwaved herself a frozen pizza. Then Coraline watched television. She wondered why grown-ups gave themselves all the good programmes with all the shouting and running around in. After a while she started yawning. Then she undressed, brushed her teeth and put herself to bed. In the morning she went into her parents' room, but their bed hadn't been slept in and they weren't around. She ate tin spaghetti for breakfast. For lunch she had a block of cooking chocolate and an apple. The apple was yellow and slightly shriveled, but it tasted sweet and good. For tea she went down to see Mrs. Spink and Forcible. She had 3 digestive biscuits, a glass of lemonade and a cup of weak tea. The limeade was very interesting. It didn't taste anything like limes. It tasted bright green and vaguely chemical. Coraline liked it enormously. She wished they had it at home. "How are your dear mother and father?" asked Miss Spink. "Missing," said Coraline. "I haven't seen either of them since yesterday. I'm on my own. I think I've probably become a single-child family. Tell your mother that we found the Glasgow Empire press clippings we were telling her about. She seemed very interested when Miriam mentioned them to her." "She's vanished under mysterious circumstances," said Coraline, "and I believe my father has as well." "I'm afraid we'll be out all day tomorrow, Caroline Levy," said Miss Forcible. "We'll be staying with April's niece in Royal Tunbridge Wells." They showed Coraline a photographic album with photographs of Miss Spink's niece in it, and then Coraline went home. She opened a money box and walked down to the supermarket. She bought 2 large bottles of limeade, a chocolate cake, and a new bag of apples, and went back home and ate them for dinner. She cleaned her teeth and went into her father's office. She woke up his computer and wrote a story. Coraline's story. There was a girl. Her name was Apple. She used to dance a lot. She danced and danced until her feet turned into sausages. The end. She printed out the story and turned off the computer. Then she drew a picture of the little girl dancing underneath the words on the paper. She ran herself a bath with too much bubble bath in it, and the bubbles ran over the side and went all over the floor. She dried herself on the floor as best she could and went to bed. Coraline woke up in the night. She went into her parents' bedroom, but the bed was made and empty. The glowing green numbers on the digital clock glowed 3:12 a.m. All alone, in the middle of the night, Coraline began to cry. There was no other sound in the empty flat. She climbed into her parents' bed, and after a while she went back to sleep. Coraline was woken by cold paws batting her face. She opened her eyes. Big green eyes stared back at her. It was the cat. "Hello," said Coraline. "How did you get in?" The cat didn't say anything. Coraline got out of bed. She was wearing a long t-shirt and pyjama bottoms. "Have you come to tell me something?" The cat yawned, which made its eyes flash green. "Do you know where Mummy and Daddy are?" The cat blinked at her slowly. "Is that a yes?" The cat blinked again. Coraline decided that that was indeed a yes. "Will you take me to them?" The cat stared at her. Then it walked out into the hall. She followed. It walked the length of the corridor and stopped down at the very end where a full-length mirror hung. The mirror had been, a long time before, the inside of a wardrobe door. It had been hanging there on the wall when they moved in, and although Coraline's mother had spoken occasionally of replacing it with something newer, she never had. Coraline turned on the light in the hall. The mirror showed the corridor behind her. That was only to be expected. But also reflected in the mirror were her parents. They stood awkwardly in the reflection of the hall. They seemed sad and alone. As Coraline watched, they waved to her slowly with limp hands. Coraline's father had his arm around her mother. In the mirror, Coraline's mother and father stared at her. Her father opened his mouth and said something, but she could hear nothing at all. Her mother breathed on the inside of the mirror glass, and quickly, before the fog faded, she wrote, "Help us," with the tip of her forefinger. The fog on the inside of the mirror faded, and so did her parents, and now the mirror reflected only the corridor and Coraline and the cat. "Where are they?" Coraline asked the cat. The cat made no reply, but Coraline could imagine its voice, dry as a dead fly on a windowsill in winter, saying, "Well, where do you think they are?" "They aren't going to come back, are they?" said Coraline. "Not under their own steam." The cat blinked at her. Coraline took it as a yes. "Right then," said Coraline. "Then I suppose there is only one thing left to do." She walked into her father's study. She sat down at his desk. Then she picked up the telephone and opened the phone book and called the local police station. "Police," said a gruff male voice. "Hello," she said. "My name is Coraline Jones." "You're up a bit late after your bedtime, aren't you, young lady?" said the policeman. Possibly, said Coraline, who was not going to be diverted, but I'm ringing to report a crime. And what sort of crime would that be? Kidnapping. Grown-up napping, really. My parents have been stolen away into a world on the other side of a mirror in our hall. And you know who stole them? Asked a police officer. Coraline could hear the smile in his voice, and she tried extra hard to sound like an adult might sound, to make him take her seriously. I think my other mother has them both in her clutches. She may want to keep them and sew their eyes with black buttons, or she may simply have them in order to lure me back into the reach of her fingers. I'm not sure. Ah, the nefarious clutches of her fiendish fingers, is it? He said, You know what I suggest, Miss Jones? No, said Coraline. What? You ask your mother to make you a big old mug of hot chocolate, then you give you a great big old hug. There's nothing like a hot chocolate and a hug for making the nightmares go away. And if she starts off to tell you off for waking her up at this time of night, why, you tell her that that's what the policeman said. He had a deep, reassuring voice. Coraline was not reassured. When I see her, said Coraline, I shall tell her that. And she put down the telephone. The black cat, who had sat on the floor, grooming its fur through this entire conversation, now stood up and led the way into the hall. Okay, Year 7. So to check that we've just understood what we've read so far in Chapter 5, a few questions for you. You don't need to write the question down, I just want you to write the answer down. Just a sentence, that's all. I want you to tell me, what is Coraline's mission? So in your exercise book, underneath your table, the next part of your book, pause the video if you need to. What is Coraline's mission? Pause the video and write your answer to that question. Okay, what was your answer? To find and save her parents. Okay, that's what she needs to do. They're stuck behind the mirror. Okay, well done. Next question coming up. How has the cat helped her so far in this chapter? Okay, pause the video. Just write a sentence answering that question. Okay, my answer is coming up. Well, it can talk, first of all. It's talked before. It doesn't quite talk. It kind of talks. It blinks at her. Okay. And it has also shown her the mirror where her parents are trapped on the other side. Okay. Now, last question, which I'm not going to give you an answer for, because it's you predicting what you think might happen next. So the last question is, how do you think her magical object might work? That's what we're going to read next lesson, about the stone with a hole in it. Okay, so last question. Pause the video and write your answer. If you can hear all the noise, that's my cat going bonkers. Its magical objects are treats. Excellent, Year 7. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I really enjoy looking at all this stuff. It's brilliant. So don't forget, we'll be to upload your work if you want to. This lesson, if you're in Mrs. Keir's class, I know she does it individually on each lesson. Other classes, you'll be doing it at the end of the week. Hope you're enjoying it. I hope those of you who've been with Mrs. Pearman are enjoying your live lessons. If you haven't had a live lesson yet, look out, because you may be getting one over the next few weeks. We're sharing them out. Okay, well done, Year 7. See you next lesson. Over and out.